Hello everyone and welcome back to the Studyclix YouTube channel. My name is Erin and in today's video we are going to be taking a look at some predictions, tips and tricks for the 2026 Leaving Cert Irish Exam.
Just a quick disclaimer before we begin. These predictions are not guaranteed to come up, so make sure to cover every topic on the course before the exams. These predictions are based off evidence from previous exam years and from predictions given to us by expert teachers. Now, enjoy the video.
Now without further ado, let's delve into the predictions. The first part of the Irish exam that you will sit is the oral exam, which is worth 40% altogether. This is a massive chunk of the overall subject grade, and so it's really important that you put a lot of effort into this. Rather than rote learning, the key focus here is preparation and having comfort in conversing in Irish. Focus on developing a broad range of vocab and your overall communication skills. The two greatest sections of the oral exam are the Srá Pictiúr, worth 80 marks, and the Comprehension, worth 120 marks, which is half of the overall marks. Leaving Cert students in 2026 are expected to prepare 10 Srá Pictiúrs and to inform the examiner of which 10 they have prepared upon entering the room. The easiest way to do this is to have them all listed on a piece of paper, which you can then present to the examiner. Seo iad na Srá Pictiúr atá olbhithe agam is a good phrase to say to the examiner to let them know. If you pick one and you haven't studied it, just say Ní dhearadh na maith an Srá Pictiúr seo. I didn't do the Srá Pictiúr, and that will let them know. Remember that for the Comprehension section, the most important thing is to take control of the conversation and to lead the examiner to topics you feel comfortable talking about. There is absolutely no need for students to discuss current affairs or topics that they have no interest in. This is your oral and your conversation, so you get to be in charge of what you talk about, and you need to remember that. The Aural or the listening exam then is probably the most overlooked 10% on the entire course. It requires a regular amount of work. It's not something that you can cram for before the exam or study for beforehand. It's a lot of practice needed, so focus on listening to Irish on a daily basis, listening to different dialects. So this can be done through things like podcasts, social media, TV, or audio recordings of yourself even. Students who develop this gradual approach to the Aural end up with much better results at the end of the day. For the Aural, the key time is before Quiz A begins. During this time, students must go through as much of the paper as possible, highlight keywords, and predicting the possible themes or questions of the Aural piece. You should expect to get all of the questions in Quiz A and Quiz B read and key terms translated in this time. So before Quiz A begins, you should have everything highlighted and know what is expected of you. Students have 90 seconds to do this from the moment the tape starts and they open the paper to when the speaker begins. A key message is to always be in line or ahead of the tape. So that means if Quiz A is playing, you should be attempting answers for Quiz B or preparing for Quiz C if you're finished. Some common questions that can come up in the Aural are Cén agriocht nó cén folúntas atá lúitse san ógra? So what organisation or what vacancy is mentioned in the advertisement? Luí gá cháilíocht nó na skillna a bhaith ag an té a cheapfar. So mention 2 qualifications or skills that the person who is chosen must have. Cén comórtas atá ag gceist san ógra seo? What competition is mentioned in this advertisement? Cén seanachal a luan X? So what seanachal does this person mention? Or cén post atá ag person? What job does X person have? Now moving on to the written section of paper 1, which you will do just after your oral exam. Students should pick one question from either section A or section C. Picking a question from section B, which is the scale or short story, is not really recommended, as oftentimes students struggle to score high marks in this section. The most commonly occurring questions relate to either national or international problems. Please be aware that if a question states Fibina, you must write about more than one problem, and if you fail to do so, your mark will be reduced. For this year, I would recommend preparing for topics such as the role of the Irish language, elections, democracy and voting, international relations, and as an outside recommendation, I would look at the role of the education system in Ireland, given the changes currently happening. I would also recommend that students look at an essay preparation for life in Ireland today, or what the future holds in Ireland. This topic would cover many broad social problems that students may wish to include. It's always a good idea to prepare a wide range of topics that could fit under a wide range of different headings so that you can accommodate each title that is presented to you. Now, moving on to paper 2, this is the place where most of the more predictable questions come up that you can do study for in advance. For the reading comprehension, question 6A regularly asks students to identify verbs in the séir bhríthir in each tense. This is often in the amsir chaite. It often asks you to identify nouns in the tishal ginneduch singular form, either masculine or feminine. Sometimes it can be plural also. There is loads of helpful videos on our Irish Boost channel for this. I would really recommend checking out Irish Boost for help with all things Irish, but specifically grammar. There are so many different grammar videos on there that are really, really helpful for things exactly like this question, for familiarizing yourself with how different grammar terms look like, what to look out for, and just improving your general sentence structure and grammar. For question 6b then, this is a 12-mark question, and the most commonly asked questions are Conna sa huian sluch seo I bhaim ort, tor gá fuinte ólas I duckle hain onslucht, mar haciocht le daragra, is lor shaska vocal. So this means, how did this piece affect you? And to give 2 points of information in your own words to support your answer. The other commonly occurring question 6b is tor gá hús a scríb an túdar an sluch seo. So give 2 reasons that the author wrote this piece. This is completely subjective. All that you need to do is follow what the question asks of you. So if it asks you for 2 reasons, make sure you're giving 2 reasons. And it can be completely in your own words once you're backing up your point. Students should prepare the layout of these answers, as having this information makes them readily able to complete this 12-mark section in just under 10 minutes. Each question 6b answer should have a similar structure to make it easier to prepare. Now moving on to the prose section. As 2026 is the final year of the current literature course being examined, the predictions might be a little bit more challenging. In 2026 higher level, 2 out of the named 5 stories will appear on the paper. Students must answer 1 out of the 2 that appear, so you have a choice in that. The most commonly occurring question is to discuss the relationship between the 2 main characters. Students need to ensure they demonstrate a thorough understanding of the story through their answer. The most skillful answer will demonstrate that knowledge while linking it to the question. This is a 30-mark question and should be completed in 30 minutes. Students should be writing approximately 2 to 2.5 A4 pages for top marks, but the quality of their work is far more important than the answer length. Since 2 prose have come up every year since COVID, the predicting of this question is a little bit more difficult. However, I would recommend that students cast an extra eye over Cockamilis, not forgetting the rare but challenging question about movie techniques in Cockamilis. Including any element of this in an answer about Cockamilis would be very impressive to an examiner. Moving on to the poetry section then, if you study the 5 named poems, Gavin, Colscara, an Tarachir, an Spalpin Fanoch, and Muchrasa Iderlubini, then you must answer question 3a. You may not answer question 3b. The most commonly occurring 9-mark question for the poetry is to describe the life and work of the poet. Cé a chum an dáin seo. Scríobh nóta gairid híal agus híthar an uile sin. This must be learned off, as knowing it in advance almost guarantees you 9 marks and saves you time. When completing this question, you must state the poet's full name and then 3 pieces of information in total. 2 about their life and 1 on their literary work, or 1 point on their life and 2 points on their literary work. For their literary works, the year in which the work was published is not required. If a student incorrectly names the poet for this question, their total mark will be 0 out of 9 marks. So it's really important that you have the poet's name right and spelled correctly. Similarly to question 6b in the Leibhishkint, you should have a template answer that can be applied to each poet. Note that there is no poet for An Spalpin Fánach, so if this poem appears on the paper, the question on the poet will not. It is also a good idea to focus on the 6-mark questions. Conna sa hui an dáin I bhaimart, how did this poem affect you? Déan chuirsíos bhadaracht an dáin, describe the meter of the poem. These poetic techniques are very short, so first of all you make your point, which is 1 mark, and then explaining or expanding upon this point is 5 marks. Since 2 poems like the prose have come up since COVID, the predicting of this question is more challenging. However, I would recommend that students cast an extra eye over Muchrasa Iderlubini and Gavin. And finally, moving on to the additional text. Considering there are 5 various texts that students can study, these being An Trial, which is covered in our Boost videos, A Hignat Hitzerum, Gafe, Toriocht Yirmuids agus Grania, as well as Danta Brescia, the main priority for students should be to demonstrate in-depth knowledge of their chosen text within their answer. Again, knowledge of the main characters and main themes is critical here. Students should expect to write 3 to 3.5 A4 pages in 40 minutes for this 40-mark question. Pay particular attention to the wording of the question, especially with An Trial, as it commonly has 2 parts contained in the same sentence. Each element of the question must be addressed. If only 1 part is addressed, the total mark for over is reduced from 35 to 25. 5 marks is always added then for the quality of Irish used. This question is the last on paper 2, where students often struggle for time to complete it. If you feel that you will be tight on time, I would recommend that you complete the paper by doing your best question first. This usually follows the format of reading comprehensions, followed by poetry, followed by additional text, followed by prose. Or another way that it can be smart to complete the paper is doing them in order of marks. So that would be your reading comprehension, followed by your additional text, and then prose or poetry. And there you have it, some predictions, tips and tricks for the Leaving Cert Irish exam in 2026. Once again, remember that these are all predictions and not facts, so please do not rely too heavily on them when it comes to your study. Make sure you subscribe for some more Leaving Cert prediction videos coming soon, and best of luck with your preparations.